For different applications, we have a different break-in process, and
Brakes can fail without a single warning, and when they do, seconds decide everything. Meanwhile, there are silent triggers hiding under your hood, but with some simple habits, disaster can be stopped before it starts. From overlooked fluid leaks to poor driving habits, the danger is real. If you think your brakes are fine, think again. The danger doesn't wait, and it never knocks before it hits. Join us as we unravel certain damages that can affect your brakes, because what you learn in the next few minutes could keep you alive. Hidden wares that take drivers by surprise. Brake problems often grow slowly, and many drivers don't even notice the damage building up. From the outside, everything might seem fine. The car still moves, the engine runs well, and there are no warning lights flashing on the dashboard. But underneath, inside the wheels and along the braking system, small parts begin to wear out little by little. And as the days go by, they keep getting worse. One of the first things to wear down is the brake pad. Every time you step on the brake pedal, the pads press up against a round metal disc called a rotor. That's how the car slows down. But each time they touch, the brake pads lose a bit of their thickness. They keep wearing out, even when you're only tapping the brakes gently in traffic or rolling into your driveway. Over weeks and months, they grow thin and weak. Drivers don't always feel the change. They get used to how the car handles, but deep inside, the pads are starting to fail. Some drivers hear a small squeaking sound when they brake. Others feel a small shudder in the steering wheel. But instead of getting it checked, they push through it. They think the road is rough or that the tires are just old. They brush off the early signs. But the problem doesn't go away. It keeps building up behind the scenes. The rotor, which spins with the wheel, also takes a beating over time. Heat builds up as the pads push against it. That heat causes the metal to expand and contract over and over again. Eventually, the surface becomes uneven. When this happens, braking becomes shaky. The car may feel like it's bumping up and down, or the pedal might start to feel odd under your foot. But still, many people press on and drive through it. They think it's no big deal. Then there's the caliper. That's the part that pushes the brake pads against the rotor in the first place. Sometimes, the caliper doesn't move properly. It might get stuck halfway, or it might press harder on one side than the other. When this happens, the car may start pulling to one side when braking. One wheel slows down more than the other. If a driver lets this go on, the pad on that side could wear down faster and cause serious trouble. But since the car still runs, many people just carry on with their daily drives. Rain, dirt, and dust can also work their way into the braking parts. Over time, the metal parts can start to rust or clog up. This buildup makes it harder for everything to move the way it should. The pedal may begin to feel soft under your foot. The brakes might take longer to grab. Sometimes they work fine, other times they don't. But when the driver steps on the brakes in an emergency, they may not respond fast enough. These are the kinds of problems that sneak up on people. Every tap on the brakes wears the parts down just a bit more. And without regular checks, drivers don't know what's going on. The car might stop fine one day and roll through an intersection the next. In heavy traffic or high speeds, this kind of delay could end in disaster. A car that doesn't stop right away puts everyone in danger, and all of it could have started months earlier when a brake pad began to thin or a rotor started to warp. But because the driver didn't feel it right away, they never took the car in. To stop this from happening, it's important to keep up with brake checks. A trained mechanic knows how to look over the whole system. They can measure the brake pads, test the rotors, and make sure the calipers are doing their job. They can also clean out dust and remove rust before it starts to eat away at the parts. If any part is worn or damaged, they can swap it out before it causes a failure. These steps don't take long, but they make a huge difference. It's also helpful to pay attention to small changes. If the car starts pulling to one side, or the pedal feels different, or there's a strange sound when you brake, don't brush it off. Pull over, slow down, get it checked as soon as you can. Waiting just a few days or weeks can let the damage spread. What could have been a small repair may turn into a full brake system failure. Driving every day puts stress on the brakes. They heat up and wear down with every trip, whether you drive around town or out on the highway. Even short drives to the store can add up, so it's important to stay ahead of brake problems. Don't wait for the car to give out. Don't let the damage sneak up on you. Even something as simple as changing the pads or resurfacing the rotors can bring the system back to full strength. By taking the time to look over the parts, fix what's wrong, and change out anything that's worn, you can keep your car safe on the road. The brakes will respond fast, the pedal will feel strong, and you won't be caught off guard by a system that suddenly stops working. Meanwhile, there's also another aspect. Brake fluid neglect. Inside every car, brake fluid moves through thin metal tubes and rubber hoses. This fluid is not something drivers see every day, but it plays a huge role in stopping the vehicle. Without it, the brakes won't work the way they should. The fluid is pushed through the system every time you press down on the brake pedal. It builds up pressure and makes the pads clamp down on the wheels. But over time, this fluid can go bad, and that's when the trouble begins. Brake fluid is designed to handle heat and pressure, but it doesn't last forever. As the car moves and stops again and again, the fluid heats up. Heat causes it to break down slowly. It also starts to draw in moisture from the air. Even though the brake system is closed off, tiny amounts of water can still work their way inside through the hoses and seals. The longer the fluid sits inside the system, the more moisture it can pull in. This moisture builds up over the months and years. As it spreads through the fluid, it begins to cause trouble. Water inside the brake lines can boil during hard braking. That turns the fluid into steam, and when that happens, the pressure suddenly drops. The brake pedal feels soft. You step down and nothing happens. That delay can be dangerous, especially when you need to stop quickly. Moisture can also eat away at the inside of the brake system. It causes rust to build up inside the lines. That rust works its way into the small openings in the valves and cylinders. It blocks the flow and messes up the pressure. Once the inside of the system starts to break down, it doesn't take long before the damage spreads. Metal parts begin to stick, rubber seals wear out, and slowly, the whole system becomes weak. Drivers often overlook the brake fluid. They keep up with oil changes and tire rotations, but the fluid inside the brake system gets ignored. It doesn't flash any warning lights at first. There's no sharp noise or strong vibration. But as the fluid goes bad, the stopping power begins to fade. Some people notice that the pedal sinks farther down than before. Others feel the car take longer to stop, but the car still moves, so they keep driving. In cold weather, the moisture inside the fluid can freeze. That puts even more stress on the system. Frozen water expands and cracks the rubber lines. Once those cracks open up, the fluid begins to leak. The pedal may suddenly feel loose or drop to the floor. If this happens when a car is speeding or going downhill, the driver could lose control. In hot weather, the fluid can boil faster. The pressure doesn't build up the way it should. You may need to pump the pedal just to get the brakes to grab. These problems may come and go at first, but they always grow worse over time. If the fluid is left unchanged for too long, it stops doing its job. To stop this from happening, the fluid needs to be flushed out and replaced regularly. That means draining the old fluid, cleaning the lines, and pouring in fresh fluid. This should be done every few years, even if the brakes still seem to work. Mechanics use test strips or meters to check the fluid and see how much water has mixed in and decide when it's time to change it. Changing the brake fluid doesn't take much time, but it makes a difference. It keeps the pressure strong. It stops rust from building up inside. It keeps the seals and hoses from wearing out too soon. Most of all, it gives the driver full control of the brakes when they need it most. Even the best brake pads won't work right if the fluid behind them can't push them forward. The fluid is what brings the whole system together. It connects your foot to the stopping force on the wheels. If it goes bad, everything else starts to fall apart. Paying attention to the way the brake pedal feels can help you catch the problem early. If it feels spongy, it may mean the fluid is no longer working right. If the brakes feel weak or slow to react, that's another sign. The best move is to get it checked out and changed before something breaks. Brake fluid isn't something you see when you open the hood, and it doesn't give off strong smells or loud sounds. But it's always moving through the system, building pressure and keeping everything working. Once it gets old, it turns from clear to dark, and it loses its strength. Letting old brake fluid stay inside the car too long can bring on a full system failure. It wears out the inside parts, lets in rust, and diminishes the pressure. But by flushing it out and putting in fresh fluid on time, you bring back the stopping power. You protect the lines, the cylinders, and the pads. Most of all, you stay in control of your car. Brake line leaks. Brake lines carry the fluid that makes your car stop. They run under the body, along the frame, and through the wheels. These lines are long and thin, made from metal or rubber. They connect the brake pedal to each wheel. Every time you press down on the pedal, the fluid flows through these lines and builds up pressure. That pressure makes the brakes work. But if any part of the line breaks down, the pressure drops, and the brakes stop doing their job. Most brake lines are strong when they come out of the factory. They are built to handle heat, rain, and rough roads. But over the years, they wear out. They go through heavy use and weather can break them down. Dirt, salt, water, and rocks hit the lines from underneath the car. These things build up slowly and eat away at the metal. Rust shows up and begins to spread. It works its way through the line until a small hole opens up. That hole lets the fluid drip out. Rubber parts of the brake line can also wear out. They dry up over time. Heat from the engine or the brakes causes the rubber to crack. Once those cracks form, fluid can leak out bit by bit. At first, there might not be much loss. The brakes may still work well enough, but little by little, more fluid slips out. And with each drive, the problem grows. Drivers don't always see brake fluid on the ground. It doesn't always leave a puddle. Sometimes it leaks near the wheel or under the engine, where it's hard to spot. Other times, it sprays onto a moving part and dries up quickly. That's why these leaks often go unnoticed. They keep building up in secret. The pressure inside the line drops slowly, and the driver adjusts without knowing it. The pedal feels softer, but the car still stops. Until one day, it doesn't. Rust is one of the biggest causes of line failure. It doesn't show up all at once. It spreads under the surface. Moisture from rain or snow sticks to the metal. Road salt speeds up the process. Drivers who live in cold places deal with this more often. The rust eats through the metal from the outside in. At some point, the line gives way, and the fluid bursts out. When that happens, the car loses braking power right away. The pedal sinks to the floor. The brakes don't respond. In some cases, only one wheel loses power. In other cases, the whole system drops out. The driver may try to stop, but the car keeps rolling forward. That's how crashes happen. And it all starts with a small leak that nobody saw coming. Heat also plays a role. When you drive in hot places or use the brakes often, the lines heat up. That heat puts pressure on weak spots. Rubber hoses swell and stretch. Over time, they start to break open, and fluid finds its way out through those tiny holes. These small leaks can grow quickly. They begin as slow drips and turn into strong sprays. To catch these problems early, the brake lines need to be checked. A mechanic can lift the car and look underneath. They can follow the lines from one end to the other. They'll look for wet spots, cracks, or rust. They can press on the pedal while the car is on the lift and see if fluid leaks out. If any part looks weak or damaged, they can take it out and put in a new one before it breaks down fully. In many cars, the rear brake lines are the first to go. They're harder to see and get hit with more road dirt. They rust faster than the front lines. That's why full brake inspections should include every part of the system, not just what's easy to reach. Drivers should also pay attention to the feel of the pedal. If it feels soft, sinks too far, or takes longer to stop the car, that could mean a leak has started. If the fluid level in the brake reservoir keeps dropping, it's a sign of leakage. Brake line leaks don't always show up with loud noises or flashing lights. They sneak in slowly, behind the wheels, under the body, out of sight. And once they break through, the car can lose control in seconds. That's why it's important to look under the car, check the lines, and stay ahead of the damage. Replacing brake lines is not something to put off. Once a leak starts, the system is no longer safe. A quick fix today can stop a major failure tomorrow. Fresh lines hold pressure better. They keep the fluid moving strong. They help the pads grip tight and stop the wheels when it matters most. Keeping up with brake fluid isn't enough if the lines around it are leaking. The pressure depends on sealed lines. Once that seal breaks, the system begins to fall apart. Checking, cleaning, and swapping out worn parts keeps the car in control. Anti-lock braking system failures. The anti-lock braking system, also called ABS, was made to stop the wheels from locking up during hard braking. It helps drivers keep control, especially on wet roads or during sudden stops. This system kicks in when the car senses the wheels could skid. It works fast, pumping the brakes many times in just 1 second. That gives the driver a better chance to stay in control. But like all parts of a car, the ABS can wear out or break down. And when it does, the driver may not know until it's too late. The ABS has many parts working together. There are sensors on each wheel. These sensors keep track of how fast the wheels spin. If one wheel starts to slow down more than the others, the ABS picks up on it. It sends out a signal. Then the ABS controller tells a special pump to step in. That pump helps ease the brake pressure just enough so the wheel doesn't lock. This process goes on over and over, very fast, until the car comes to a full stop. But if any part of this chain starts to break down, the whole system becomes weak. The wheel sensors can get covered in dirt or grease. That messes up their readings. They might send wrong signals or stop working altogether. Sometimes, the wires leading to the sensors wear out. They rub against parts under the car or get pulled loose. A small wire problem can shut down the sensor completely. The ABS pump and control unit are also at risk. These parts sit near the engine or inside the car's frame. Over time, heat, dirt, and moisture build up around them. They can short out, freeze up, or just stop working. When that happens, the ABS doesn't turn on during braking. The driver might not even notice right away. The brakes will still work, but not with the added safety of the ABS. In some cases, a light shows up on the dashboard. This ABS light tells you something is wrong, but many drivers ignore it or put off getting it checked. The car keeps moving and the brakes still work, so they push ahead, not knowing the system won't help during an emergency. When the wheels lock up during a panic stop, there's nothing to keep the car from skidding. Cold weather makes things worse. Ice, snow, and road salt get kicked up into the wheel area. They stick to the sensors. They freeze the small moving parts. This buildup causes the sensors to send out the wrong signals. The ABS may kick in too soon or not at all. In some cases, it pulses the brakes when it's not needed. In other cases, it fails to step in when it's most needed. Heat can also cause damage. Long drives or hilly roads heat up the whole system. If the ABS unit is already old, the heat can push it over the edge. The pump may stop running, the valves may stop opening and closing. That means the system can no longer adjust the pressure. When the car begins to slide, there's no help from the ABS. To keep the ABS working, the whole system needs to be checked from time to time. Mechanics can plug into the car's computer and look up any errors. They can test the wheel sensors one by one. They can take off dirt and rust, clean the sensors, and fix any broken wires. They can check the pump and make sure it runs right. If any part has worn out, they can swap it out before it causes trouble. Some drivers turn off the ABS on purpose, especially in older cars. They think it's not needed or that the car runs better without it. But doing this brings on big risks. Without ABS, the wheels can lock up during panic stops. The tires can slide across the road instead of gripping it. That takes away the driver's control. On wet or uneven roads, that slide can lead to a crash. ABS was made to help, not hurt. But like any system, it needs care. Dust and dirt build up fast. Wires break down. Sensors get knocked loose. The car keeps rolling forward, but the safety systems fall behind. If a driver doesn't take time to check the system, they may not know it's broken until it's too late. Even if the ABS light turns off again, that doesn't mean the problem fixed itself. Loose wires can work 1 minute and fail the next. A dirty sensor might work now but stop tomorrow. The only way to stay safe is to look into it and fix the issue before it gets worse. The anti-lock braking system is not just for new drivers. It's for anyone who wants to stop faster and hold control. It steps in during those rare but risky moments that come without warning. By keeping the sensors clean, checking the wires, testing the pump, and listening to warning signs, you hold on to one of the most important tools in your car. The ABS doesn't work all the time, but when it's needed, it needs to be ready. If you keep it in shape, it will step in and help when nothing else can. In order to keep your car brake in good condition at all times, here are some things you should do. Simple care and maintenance habits. Brakes are one of the most important parts of any car. They help you slow down and stop when you need to, but brakes don't stay strong forever. They wear out bit by bit. Dirt, heat, rain, and heavy driving all work against them. The best way to keep them strong is by sticking to good habits and doing simple checks before problems build up. When you take care of the brakes ahead of time, you stop trouble before it shows up. The first step is to stick with regular servicing. Take the car to a mechanic on time. Don't wait until the brakes start to feel soft or sound strange. Have them look over the brake pads, rotors, fluid, and lines. When you keep up with these checks, you catch small problems early. A mechanic can spot worn pads, leaking fluid, or cracks in the lines. They can swap out weak parts before they fail on the road. Checking the brake fluid should be part of every service. The fluid should sit at the proper level in the reservoir. If it starts to drop, it could mean something is leaking. The color of the fluid also says a lot. It should look clean and clear. If it turns dark, it may be old or filled with moisture. This fluid helps push the brakes, so keeping it fresh is key. Flushing out the old fluid and pouring in new fluid helps build back strong pressure and protects the brake system from damage. It's also smart to go on test drives. After any brake work or service, take the car for a short drive and pay attention to how it feels. Step on the brake pedal and see how the car reacts. If it grabs right away, the system is strong. If it sinks too far or feels soft, more work may be needed. These small test drives help spot trouble before it grows. Another good habit is to keep the wheels clean. Brake dust builds up from the pads as they wear down. Washing it off from time to time helps stop buildup and keeps the system clean. Driving style plays a big part too. Some drivers put too much strain on the brakes without knowing it. Fast driving, sudden stops, and heavy loads push the brakes hard. Over time, this wears them out quicker, but by changing the way you drive, you can help the brakes last much longer. Start by easing off the gas early. When you see traffic or a red light ahead, let your foot off the pedal and let the car slow down by itself. This is called coasting. It takes pressure off the brakes. It gives them a break before they have to work. When you do need to stop, press down slowly. Avoid stepping hard unless there's real danger. Smooth stops help the pads wear evenly. Keep space between your car and the one in front. When you drive too close, you stop and go too often. That builds up heat in the brake system. Keeping your distance helps you ease off and roll along instead of braking all the time. It also gives you time to spot things early and react without slamming on the brakes. When driving downhill, shift into a lower gear if you can. Let the engine help hold back the speed. This takes the strain off the brakes. Riding the brakes all the way down a hill can cause them to overheat. Pads and rotors can glaze over and then they lose grip. Downshifting helps keep the system cool. Before long trips, always get a full inspection. Even if the car seems fine, have a mechanic check it out. Long drives bring on more stress. High speeds and long hours wear down the brakes fast. A quick check can pick up on leaks, worn pads, or old fluid before the car hits the highway. Fixing these problems at home is much easier than breaking down far away. Also make sure the tires are in good shape. Worn tires don't grip the road well, and the brakes have to work harder. Keeping them pumped up and swapping them out when the tread wears down also helps the brakes do their job better. Another habit that pays off is to keep the car light. Remove heavy items from the trunk. A heavy load makes the brakes work harder, especially during stops. The less weight the car carries, the easier it is to slow down. Check for warning signs. If the brake pedal feels soft, if the steering wheel shakes when you stop, or if the car pulls to one side, don't ignore it. These signs mean something is going wrong. Make sure to set up a checkup right away and get it sorted out before the problem grows. Brakes don't just stop the car, they protect everyone inside. When you check the fluid, clean the wheels, drive with care, and fix small things early, you give the brakes what they need to last longer. Every little step adds up. Simple habits and smart checks go a long way in keeping your car safe on the road. What other steps could be taken to keep the brakes intact? Let us know your views in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.